Hello racing fans, Racing393. Racing fans, well you know what I mean, RC fans, same thing. Fans. Right. RC10T build time. I see, I've got everything apart from speed controller. I'm just trying to think. Well, you know, as far as building the chassis, I think I've got everything. I've got the hop-ups that I need. I haven't got a speed controller. I'm working on that. I know which one I'd like to get. It's quite expensive. But, you know, that's at the time of recording in the future. So the video is going to be a detailed build of the RC10T with hop-ups. I'm always a little bit behind the rush. People have built these already. I don't know if anyone's raced any of these yet. Being a two-wheel drive truggy, rear motor mounted, so hanging over the back axle, as per most of the vintage RC10 era cars. So this is going to be the very first RC10 based car, truck, with a T on the end, but my very first RC10 build. Never built one. So I'm looking forward to it. Got all the upgrades, which you probably would have seen in a previous video. I'm going to try and do as detailed as I can with the equipment that I've got. So I'll try and see if I can scale this one down a little bit so it doesn't drag on. But I've got to bear in mind the other reason what some people have said is milk these videos. Well, at this time I don't have everything. I've got 90% of it. Like I said, the speed controller is the only... Oh, actually, the speed controller... Here, I've got a list now. Speed controller, receiver... And depends if I purchase another transponder, which I probably will. So I plan to race it somehow. I don't know if that's going to be viable, but that's down the line. Yeah, so they're three fairly expensive products to buy. It doesn't end there, of course. So, without further ado, let's Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo down to the shed, and we'll start this build. Please like and subscribe to be notified when future videos of my RC10T get released. Okay, here we are, part one of one of the most interesting builds I'm going to do. For me, I've never built an RC10 ever. Yet I've got another three behind me, and another one on its way. So, RC10T. The T, which I don't believe anybody would ever know what it doesn't stand for. Truck. So it's the competition RC truck, 60th anniversary from back in the day. The RC10T championship winning engineering, championship winning building, assembly, installation, we hope. If you saw the other video, I've got a load of other bits and pieces here. Well, I say a load of other bits and pieces, mainly tyres and things that will go on this, wheels and tyres. So I'll try and keep as much detail as I can on this, because I've never built one. I think because it's already new to me,
it'll come across like that on the video as well. So might use different camera angles, I don't know yet. See how we get on. But yeah, we've got some more hop-ups which you may or may not have seen. So let me just, what's in the box? No, let's open the box. The box will be moved out of the way in a minute. So probably what you haven't seen, well yeah, you might have seen those, yeah. So turnbuckles, you definitely wouldn't have seen this. Got a servo, so that's a reef servo, racing servo, and we've settled on an 8.5 turn motor. I haven't got the speed controller yet. There's one that's just come out, it's quite a lot of money. I'm looking at getting one of those in a month or two, depends on cash flow, because they're quite expensive. I suppose without further ado, I'll need to get all this stuff out of the box and get some sort of order on the bench.
Yay! Raffle time! Sorry to disappoint you. Back to the video. No raffles on this channel. The reason being, I've got nothing to raffle anyway.
Right, so fortunately everything's marked by A, B, C, D, etc. So the first we need to start is, why can't I find it? There it is. Bag A. It says on there, well, nose plate and steering build, bag A, step 1. Right, so we get the bag open. We'll go from there. So in here we've got wishbones. Well, I need something to open that with, don't I? So I'm just going to get everything out, just making sure I've got all my Imperial hardware tools. I'm just going to empty these into just a glass container for now. .24.5 degrees, so hot. Right, step 1 is we're just going to put the upright together. Now I'll go trim these off anyway, because they'll have the flashing on there. So let me do that, then I'm going to do step 1, ball stud and nut. Couldn't be easier.
Easy, you say? Oh yeah, but you've never built an RC10 chassis. What about the Eclipse?
One thing is for sure, when building anything that's not Tamiya, the problem is they've got 3-dimensional pictures which don't mean anything to me, where Tamiya give you like a 1-to-1 measurement on the page, you know. And you'd think these would be like handed, well they are handed, but there's nothing on them. There might be an L on there, if I just can't see it because my freaking, oh yeah, it has got it on there. I've rephrased that. So it has got a little L on there, a little L. You can just about see it. And a little R. Oh. But things like that. Right, that's all right, all makes sense now. Got to get used to the American measurements. 0.30. Was that 30 mil? Must be, and that's 0.20. Must be, that's what it is. So this goes in there. So out of those 2 nuts, it's got a 440 small pattern plain nut, 440 nuts. So that's the plain nut. Lock, stroke, plain, yep. And that just says nut. That's a 440 nut. And that's a small 440. It doesn't say small, but it would make sense to put small. Because it's sure that's too big. I don't know if that's right. Who can I call? Who knows? Step 1. Confused nut. Nut. All these questions and I still don't know. I don't reckon that's right. It does fit flush though. Fortunately these push in quite lightly because you've got to line up the hole for the spindle. They fit quite nice, like snug but not mega tight. E-clip. E-clip. I hate E-clips. Love shocks, not E-clips. I think it's quite important that you keep things organised, like E-clips in a container, and use tweezers. And stop getting your big fat head in the way. I can't pick them up. Got no nails, got no coordination. Unless of course, I reckon you do it like that, don't you? Of course you do, like that. And it'll be fine, and he worked something out. I bought something which I thought was a shit idea, but it's actually quite a good idea. You know when it takes like hours to do one clip? This is one of those times. Let's do the other one. So I do need. I need pliers, decent Tamiya pliers, and different freaking tweezers. This is why I would never do a live show. Sky, this exact reason. Fucking hell, this is impossible. And I can't pick them up. Right, come on. Oh, has that flicked off and gone on the floor? So now we've got to sit around trying to find an E-clip. And no one's going anywhere until we find it. Move over a minute. Move over a minute. I don't want to move the seat because I'll move on to it. I heard it as well. Sky, move out the way a minute. There's not a lot of room for both of us down here. Stay there. Now stay there, don't you come down here. It's going to be one of those things which we're never going to find, are we? Sky, you can't go there because I need to get there. Oh, Sky! It hit something, I heard it, which means, well, it doesn't mean it definitely went there, but it could have gone anywhere. It could have gone freaking anywhere. And the problem is, I don't know if you get any spares. Stop. That's not helping. You can't fit there. Sky. Sky. I'm stuck. Sky, can you move? I don't know. Lost a bit. Lost one already. Sit down. Not there. Oh, his head on it. We've lost a C clip. So we're one E clip down. But these are built. It's full of E clips, this kit as well. Right, so that's the right one, isn't it? No, that's right. That's left. Okay. We've got to put the set screw in the end, so right, step, well, not step anything, step 3, nose plate. Can you see that? And the steering. So yeah, so as those done, right, on to the next. I can't believe it. They just literally fucking, it didn't even ping, it just dropped. And it's just disappeared, gone forever, forever and ever. I found eventually both E-clips. It's the one I lost yesterday and the one just now. I'm really struggling with E-clips. I don't quite know why. The wind's blowing a gale. I'm acting stupid. Right, let's try and put these on. Studs. Right, so I'm going to put the hardware onto this. This doesn't matter which way around it goes. Right, let's have a look. Bear with me. So that's all been put on. That's the front, pretty much. Well, it says nose plate, stroke steering. This is step 3. Anything is about this is these. I've put extra washers on just so it spreads the load a little bit. This just screws straight into the plastic. I know it's a normal thing, but I don't know, to me it would have been ideal if that went all the way through and you put a nut and bolt on it, because that could be easily stripped. But anyway, it is, we are where we are. So that's done, they're done. I'm guessing now that we can now think about putting them all together. So let's turn the page over and put these in. So I'm gonna do step 4, nose plates and steering build, and then we're going to be on to the next bit. We put it to the chassis, and then we're going to be on to one of the new bits I bought, and the steering bell crank, well, sort of servo saver if you like. Right, so I'm going to complete step 4. Put the chassis and the front suspension on, as you can see. The next step, I think, is making some adjustable steering arms here. You got the, well, actually, you know, it's the bell crank. So we've got bag B to find now, which I think is here. So we've got a few loose bolts in there. Bag B. Plus we can use the first of my hop-ups So I'm kind of hoping that there's a short one in there. That there's going to be the bell crank, I'm guessing. It says it's 13 millimeters. So from the, oddly enough, they measure it from the shank, if you like. But right, let's get those bits out, and then I'll be back when I've got those to hand. So I don't know if you can see those, but they're really nicely machined. Now I always have trouble trying to work out which way they go. You can see there, you've got like the arrows, but arrows both sides. So, anyway, I'm going to assemble these. Now I think what I'll also do is I'm going to put a really small amount of grease just small amount of grease on the end, and the reason I do that is that it just helps with the, you know, when you first put these on, they can be a little bit tight. There we go. So it's not a huge amount. But at least it will aid. Now I'm not sure. The other thing I haven't got is a turnbuckle wrench. Like most things, change of plan. The original turnbuckles do go in a lot easier. These ones are ever so slightly bigger, so I need different turnbuckle ends. I'll have to do some digging and I'll make up a separate set of turnbuckles. I tried to drill one out, so we've already mucked one up anyway, and I've had to use this just to grip the ends. Yeah, so the very first hop up in traditional hop up fashion I can't use, but anyway, I'm gonna just continue. I'm gonna measure this one now, just get that 13 mil between the shanks, and then I'm gonna be back, and then I'll moving on to then what would be the servo saver stroke bell crank, and I'll do some research regarding these ones, because these are expensive, and I don't want to, I mean, unless they do go on and you've got to drill them out, but not that much. So I'll either way I'll find out. So I've got this little wrench here as well. So this is a little, I don't know what size it is, but it's the turnbuckle size on here. Yeah, so I've got to measure that shank there now. It says 13 mil, so we shall see. So it's 11.3. So we're going to have to wind that out. It's not far off, I guess that as well. So what I tend to do is hold that in there. It's got to be held fairly firm, but not Rick Robanner type. I'm just going to undo the turnbuckle. I'll go around one turn. So that's literally one turn out. Should we look again? I'll try and do it in real time. Doing it live. That's 11.6. So there's at least another turn in that, isn't there? Trying to keep the turnbuckles themselves facing the right way. So let's go out another turn. I'll go one complete turn round. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll show you anyway. There we go. These are quite brittle. I did read somewhere that you've got to change these ends to put them on those turnbuckles, and then you've got different ball cups. I just don't know. I'm not an RC10 know-it-all. Don't. Right, let's see what this reads. So that's 12.3. It's probably going to do another. It'll take another one, won't it? Because it says between them two, 13. It's a bit of a weird way. It is weird. Why can't I do the ends? Like that. I don't know if that's gone the other way. Might have done. Yeah, so it shortened it up that way. And that way. It has moved. It's the old left and right thing, isn't it? Right, let's see this in real time. That's 13. See that? Bang on, Mr. Magoo. Right. I need a bigger shed. So we've done that. Happy days. Step 2, bag B. Another upgrade. So we've got this bell crank. Let's get this out. So there's been a lot of controversy over this, as in, only what I've read, that it's loose. Just rather than being on a spindle, it's bearing located. So I bet all you RC10ers out there are going, no, don't do that. I don't blame you, because I've never. First, you know, you could there's people out there that could rattle one of these together really quickly. I can't. I've got some shoes there, and there's no destructions with this. Where does it go, I hear you ask? It's almost like the wrong way round. You know, this has got the recipe for not working, isn't it? Anyway, let me. Did you hear that? Let me do something. I'll be back in a minute once I've sorted this out. Once I've worked it out. So the bell crank is on. Wasn't that bad. I did read that there was slop. I think that there's a bit of slop here with the end. I don't know if I can show you that, but if you see that move there, and it's done up reasonably tight on here. The other one doesn't move as much, but there is still a bit of slop. It almost... I'll have to look at it because... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm all ears if anybody knows. But by the time you give me the, you know, ideas or information, I may have already looked it up anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's not brilliant though, is it? And there's no servo saver on it. It's going to bug me, but I'll read up on it. There's two like little spacer shims that go under the bottom, really fiddly to get aligned. And I don't know why that one's more floppy than that one. I might make some steering arms up so that I can fit these ones here on and go from there, so bear with. So there's one done. It says that's the camber, 49.5 and 49.5. So I'm not going to show you each one, but I'm going to make the other three. It takes ages, and then stick them on the car. So they're all on there. They look quite nice, standard. So not the ones I wanted to use. We'll be there. We'll get there. Right, I think that concludes this part. The next bit is putting the front bumper on. We've got some more turnbuckles to make, I think. And then the servo can go in, but I'm going to need a servo saver because it doesn't run one on this bell crank, so I'll have to sort something out. Yeah, so that's my next task. The servo build, which is what that's for. A slightly longer one. And then we're going to install the servo, and then I'll need to get a servo saver. So on to the next step, step 6. Got bags A, B and I, bumper mounts build, and the sort of the left and right sides to sort of have the bumper on there with the body mounts which come on here. So we've got the tubes which go through here, and which are here. So we're going to put those on, 2 of them, and sort of a bracket or a brace which goes on here for the body mounts, and then we can start looking at the bumper and then the steering servo. So it's going to fit those on. Probably goes without saying that these body pins, mounts, that you put it so the holes are the correct way. So you can have it either way, but I would have it so the pins go across. That's how I would do it, rather than, I don't know, rather than down the body. Sort of personal preference, isn't it? But that sort of goes without saying. Front bumpers on. It was a bit awkward because those countersunks there screw into the chassis, threaded, and then you've got like put these, which says in the instructions to put these on, but you can't get to them. You know, even I don't think I've got a spanner that fits that anyway. But yeah, I can't understand what that. They're just like little nuts which just nip up, but they thread in anyway. Fred? Who's Fred? Anyway, what's next? Another ball joint, ball cups, and then it'll be the servo. So I'm just going to make that steering joint up first, and then we'll come back when I'm fitting the servo. Now is a moment that we've all been waiting for. The Reef Race servo. All metal gears. Nice colour purple. But it certainly does look the part. So I've got this. I'm hoping that I've also now got which is a servo horn, which is here. It's a bit big. I'm hoping that fits. It's got different fitments here, so we're going to make sure that this goes on. I'm going to centralise the servo, and then we're going to fit all this on with the servo mounts and the steering rod. Now these, I did try and fit just then these onto those new J Concepts upgraded expensive turnbuckles. You probably knew this, I didn't know this, but you're going to have to get different turnbuckles, rod ends, because I did, one went on, but it was at a weird angle as well, so yeah, so something needs to be changed with that. I'll look into that, unless by the time you see this video I still haven't found out, then you can let me know. But anyway, let's get this on the car. So the servo's in. The servo horn's such a big beast that I think it was rubbing on the chassis, so I had to space the servo a little bit. But then the countersunk screws are not quite long enough, so I'm going to have to look at that. But it's in. I'll just do this, so it's not set left and right as in through this, but like that. And like, if you go too far, it starts to pull that. So you've got like limits, you've got your end points, and that's quite a lot of steering, to be honest. So if you go too far, it comes all the way up. So obviously this isn't limited, is it? But it seems, I'm looking at that, you know, there's a possibility that needs to be in the lower hole, which I'll figure out that when I'm sort of fitting this permanently with the proper screw. Well, it's got the proper screws in, they're just not long enough, but it's got a lot of toe out on turns, so it can't go much more than that. And that. But anyway, a bit fiddly, but we're getting there. So that's the steering at the moment, sort of fitted. I'm a bit dubious about the servo horn, whether it's screwed on enough. I'm not too sure yet. I mean, I think I need to adjust. There's a few things here with the toe out and what have you, but it's nothing to worry about at the moment. But right, what's next? I think we're looking about the rear hubs now, so that'll be my next port of call. Servo's in. I just changed the bolts on the back. They're not countersunk, but they're slightly longer. Maybe Team Associated will have longer ones in the kit somewhere, but that I haven't used yet. But anyhow, it's good enough. I was going to move that down, but there isn't a hole there anyway, so 3 washers and that's clear of the chassis. So rear now, so step 1 again of bag G, rear end build, which includes wishbones, uprights, bearings, spacers, and well, the rear hub and stub axle, but we've got those upgraded parts, so we'll do them. Let's get those bits and pieces we need, and we'll I'll show you what I've got. That's that done. That took a lot longer than it should have done. I made a mistake here. Well, the first mistake was putting that on the collet, or whatever it's called. What's that called? Like a roll pin. I put it on before I did the shaft. Twat. And then when I realised that, I took it off, put the shaft in, put it back on, forgot the spacer, the shim. Sometimes you should just stick to Tamiya. Right, CVD's all done, nice. Right, I'm going to build the other one up. At least I know what I shouldn't be doing. Don't do it again. That was unnecessarily stressful. But now I know. Brain in gear, look at the instructions. Stop pissing about. Right, let's get the other one built. Hindsight. So put that on first, then build the CVD. It stops any sort. It just went straight in because you can hold it there. Just sort of wedge it in a little sort of the V shape of the vise and just tap it in. That took like 10 seconds. The other one like 5 hours. It wasn't 5 hours, but it was a good hour and a half pissing around. Yeah, but it doesn't, unless you've built one, you don't know, do you? All you associated professionals out there, at least I know when I build my RC10, I know what to do. Right, let me just build this one up. I wish there was a timestamp, because that was done. That was literally 30 seconds. Amateur. So the first one took like, oh, I don't know, over an hour. Second one under 30 seconds. Done. Buttery smooth and proper, you know, drive shafts. So right, bottom wishbone and the rear arm mounts. Now I think we've got different toe on these, I would think, different angles. So usually more toe in is more stable. I'll have a look at that. And they just screw together with hinge pins and my favourite E-clips. E-clips. Oh god! But I've got a different set of pliers now. Although I have bent them already, but they should work. We'll see. We haven't lost anything yet. Might have lost my mind, but not bits. So, yeah. Step 2, rear end build, and it goes on to the chassis. So it tells you here that we've got forward facing holes. So I think that means you fit these on these holes here. That one, for example, and that one. So forward facing, but they are, I would think these are different. I need to look into that. Right, let's put it together. So then we'll put these together. So this is the right hand side, looking down at the car, and these rear arm mounts will go like this with a hinge pin. But what is quite tricky is the angle, because I'm not sure you can see that, but that's not, that bit isn't straight with this bit, so it's obviously got toe in. But you can put that way round on the other side. You can, well, I can see it. I think I can see it anyway. But it doesn't say that in the instructions. It just says to mount it on these forward holes, which is fine. But it doesn't give you any information about that. And they're just numbered on the sprue. They're not even in pairs. Like 3, 4. Sorry. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're all different. So across the sprue to the other, the tree, sprue, whatever you call it, that's a pair and that's a pair. And I've taken these two. But it doesn't actually say anything on the instructions which way round they go. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know, would you? So that goes on square with the chassis, or square with anything. And I can see that the arm is giving it toe in on the back. Well, it looks like it from where I'm stood. Right. Just thought I mentioned that because it's a bit pants, isn't it? Got the hinge pins here to go on, and then the E clips again, and then I can put the back on there. That'll be good. Then I can turn the page finally. So page 10. Right, it's a case of putting these together and onto the chassis. There you go, voila. So next page, let's find out. So step 3, bulkhead and rear camber turnbuckles, and then the shock tower, which will go on, and then it'll be my favourite bit, shock absorbers. So I'm going to work my way through to step 5. We can then put the rear camber links on, and that will hold up the wishbones. So yeah, and I'll be back when I start doing the shocks. So that's the back all done, apart from the gearbox. Shock tower, you know, rear camber links, CVDs, front's all done. Looks right, it's doing really well. The next stage is the shocks, my favourite bit, and I do actually enjoy building shocks. It's very therapeutic. So you hold tight and I'll start building the shock absorbers. It's certainly different from Tamiya, miles different. I'll be honest, as I'm glad I've built this, because when I build my next RC10 it won't seem quite as alien. So it's probably a lot simpler, but race pedigree, which is good. Still disappointed in these bell cranks. There's movement there, and I just don't know what to do about that. But I still haven't found anything out yet as of this part of the video, so yeah. Right, let's get them shocks built. Okay, onto the shock absorbers. Shock absorbers. It's my favourite bit. Well, it's not. No, let me rephrase that. It's not my favourite bit, but I don't actually mind building shocks. They can be a little bit long-winded, but no different to, you know, track control arms and things like that, and steering rods, camber links. So you've got to get the lengths right, or as near as possible, because you can adjust them on the car. The reason I like the shocks is I get a lot of satisfaction out of making them as equal as I can. Now, I think the first team associated shocks I built was for the Fan RC, the sort of the graphite copy. Now, I'd never built team associated shocks before I built that one, so I didn't even know about the tool that you use to put all the seals in. This, I didn't even know anything about that. I did wonder what it was, but now I know. So that's quite important. So the first thing I've done is step one, is identified by putting dots on them, 1, 2 and 3. On the instructions it says here quite clearly, use number 2 for the front shocks and number 1 for the rear. Now I'm still debating whether or not to use the supplied oil, the damper oil. So I'm building the front shocks first, so that requires piston number 2. So I'm going to take these 2 out of the spur. They call it a spur or sprue. It's not, it's spelled spur. Some people call it tree. I don't suppose it really matters. Let's get this out. So I need 2 of them. So I'm just going to tidy up these pistons. So any rough edges on there. The markings I put on there were just sort of marker. It doesn't matter that they come off, now I know what ones they are. So I'm only doing this lightly because I don't want to put these out of shape. That's fine, there's no rough edges on that. This one here where it was on this tree. I'll do this with all my parts that I cut off trees. There we go, so that's nice and smooth. So we got the rods. I'm just making sure I've got the right ones. Yeah, so we've got the piston rod here, 2 of them. I'm going to build them in pairs. Talking of doing my favourite bits, E-clips again. So I use my tweezers because, well, I say it's easier, but it's still really fiddly. So it needs 4 of them, but I'm only get 2 at the moment, just for now. I think, like I've mentioned before, so what I tend to do with these ones is line them up with the bottom groove and then drop them everywhere. Yeah, God, it's not only that, so I should wear my glasses. I can't see jack. Right, so that's on there, but making sure it's face down. They're not difficult to clip on, they're just small and fiddly, and with my eyesight it's sometimes difficult to see because you're sort of in your own light as well. Some people, when they do these online, make them look so damn easy. Maybe they edit it out. Right, that one. So it clicks on, like it's got a little ear on the end, and then it sort of clicks again with the centre bit, so you know it's on. The pistons can go on. They don't matter which round they go. And then we get another E-clip. Now this is where it all goes horribly wrong. You could buy a new set of pin nose pliers. I bought a tool that does this. Now, although it works, I'm not saying it's the best way. I still think the pliers is the most practical way to do this. Thing is, I know you can't see it, but it's too small for me to show the camera. Oh, that's why it just pinged off there. Look. That's it. You heard it click. and there it's on. How close can I go? That looks out of focus. I've just moved the camera up very slightly, so that rests on top, then it clips on. You need a decent set of pliers, not like the other ones I had which slipped, but they're both on now. Now what I'm hoping is that doesn't become too blurry, that you can see it. There you go. Right, the next bit is super important. Because we've got a couple of bushings, another little clip which helps clip all this together, which is something easily overlooked. And the important thing with these things is that you make sure there's no like rough edges. Which doesn't bother me because I do this anyway. I just sort of use like a little flat file and I guess get these edges off. So with the instructions, it labels the red O-rings, and then it's got everything else is the clear one. So it's got, firstly, well, you put that has to go on first, like the little the clip. Then it says a red O-ring. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's my eyes. So the first one is O-rings, and yeah. So the clear O-ring is first, and then a red O-ring. Two of them, and then you've got the spacer, little plastic sort of spacer, then another O-ring, the red one, and another clear one. So technically you've got the clip, I'm going to check this now, the clip, clear O-ring, red O-ring, collar or spacer, red O-ring, clear O-ring. It doesn't really look right to me. We'll be using the O-ring grease, shock O-ring grease as well. So this is where you put the applicator. You put the clip on first, and then you put a clear O-ring. It's an O-ring. It's not really an O-ring, it's plastic. And then a red O-ring. Then the spacer. And then the red O-ring again, and this plastic one. So it should look like that. Hopefully you can see that if it focuses. Hopefully you can see that. The camera's blown up. So for now, all I'm going to use, there used to be an applicator that puts this on, but for now I'm just going to use a screwdriver. You don't want loads on there. I just go around mainly where the O-rings are. That's come off. So we just Okay, so I've only literally put that much on. It looks quite a lot, but it's fine. And then it says to put shock fluid on there anyway, but we're going to get the body. Now these are the fronts. And it just says to push it in, so place on a table and push down hard until the clamp snaps into place. And it should poke through the end, so let's try that. That goes on, that goes on, and technically I'll try and turn the heating off. Let's see if you can hear it click. It goes through the hole. I think that's it. I think it clicked in. Yes, it has. It didn't actually click very loud, but that puts all the O-rings at the end here. Not sure you can see in there. You probably won't be able to see in there anyway, but so that one's done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make up the other side now and do the same and click it in so we're both done like this. So that's both done. It says they snap into place. I'll be honest, I didn't hear them snap into place, but it doesn't mean they haven't snapped into place. It now says that these pistons and rods will go in, and they should feel fairly smooth. Well, they should not. It doesn't say that, but they're going to feel fairly smooth anyway, aren't they? So like so. Right, so that's those bits done there. The back ones I'll make separately, but what we've got to do now is put an end on and a little like ball joint, if you like. So one of those. Don't know if you can see that. Then it's focusing on everything else other than me, I'm sure. But anyway, one of those. And it's these ends. I think they're all the same. No, they're not. Build 2 front and 2 rear. Okay. So 6420, 6421. It doesn't actually say which one's which. We've also got a couple of O-rings to go on. They just go on the top, but should just roll over there, to be honest. So I've done that one, and then we'll do that one. Okay, so that's easy. So it's got a load of shock ends. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would think the front would have the shorter ones, would it not? Which would be these two there. The shorter sort of shank on them. It doesn't actually say. I think these instructions could do with being a little bit clearer, but let's get these smoothed out. So the pivot ball should just pop in, but I think I might need to use this tool here. I don't know if I did need to use that, but that's in. and then this just screws, will screw onto there. And I've just, for the fronts, I have used the shorter eyelets, if you like. Now this is where I'll use my tool again, and we put this in so that it grips the shaft, and we just turn that on. I mean, even the fronts are still quite long, aren't they? Okay, so let me do the other one, and then I'll be back. So that's them both complete, built initially. Now I'll do the rear shocks off camera. It's got a step-by-step instruction here of bleeding. So step 1, pull the shock shaft all the way down, which it is. Then says fill the shock body 3/4 full with silicone oil. 3/4. So for now I'll use what they supplied, because otherwise it won't get used. 3/4. So I'll do 1. Okay. It's quite thin, so that's 3/4. It then says slowly move the shock shaft up and down to remove air from under the piston, and wait for the bubbles to come to the surface. So I can see bubbles in there already, so I can see all the bubbles all pointing up. You can't. Actually, you can't see anything. I'll try that. There's still bubbles there, so I go up, down, and it says wait for the bubbles to come to the surface. Then fill the shock body to the top, place several drops in the cap and cap threads, install the cap and tighten completely. I'll just move this one up and down again a little bit, but not fully up to and down. There is a lot of air bubbles in there. So it seems like all the air bubbles have come out. I'm just going to do 1, like I said. So this is a couple of drops in the cap and the thread. Is that thread again? And then do up tight. So that's tight. It then says slowly compress the shaft all the way to the top. If there's pressure at the top of the stroke, there's too much oil, you must bleed it out. Well, let's try that first. So slowly raise the shock up. There's no pressure there. Should it stay in? I suppose there is pressure. See that? So what it then says, slowly pull the shaft down, unscrew the cap 3/4 of a turn, and tilt the shock to an angle. Right, so I need some paper. So it says all the way down. Unscrew this back 3/4, slowly compress the shaft to push out excess oil and air. You should see bubbles coming out from underneath the cap. With the shaft compressed, tighten it back up. Right, well, it's not coming out now because the air's been pushed out. Then tighten it back up. It's very slightly coming back out, but before it still comes out a little bit. Push it up and let it go. It's not as much, so there must be still a bit of air in there. Repeat the process. So I'm going to undo it again, all the way down, undo this 3/4 of a turn, like that, slowly push it all the way up, then do it up. Still think there's a bit of air in there, it's not much, that's fine, it's literally only coming back that much, but it does feel through the whole stroke really smooth. So that's, well, not how I do my shocks, but that's how Team Associated tell you to do your shocks. So let's write this down a minute. We'll do the other one. I'll come back and show you when I've done it to that point and see if they're the same. Both shocks done. Both very accurate and the same. What's next? So we've got the little collar to go on, which we can put on both. And like that. And one like that. Now they do need those little screws put on, so we'll just pin them at the top for now. Listening to Team Associated talk about the RC10, they, on the original RC10, they were quite disappointed with the non-Teflon shocks. I think a competitor at the time might have had them, or was it the Teams Edition car? Up until that point, not sure if Teflon coated, like the Fan RC, which you can't see, but it's got Teflon coated shocks on it. So that's that. We've got these end caps here, which I need to take these out, because it's sort of, the spring sits sort of lower than what I'm trying to show you what the shock body's a bit of a gap there, isn't there? So let me just undo that. I suppose if I used longer standoffs at the end, it will push this up a bit higher, the bottom, so we'll, for now, just temporarily put that like that. But they feel, out of interest, really smooth and nicely done. We've got a little eyelet to go at the top there with an aluminium washer and shock bushing, then it goes onto the car. So what I will do is get the other one built up and come back when because I might change the end eyelets, I don't know yet. Based on that there, it needs to be 7.5mm from the screw to the top, and that's way over that. And there's still a tiny bit of play there as well. So yeah, let me build these up, this front one, and I'll come back when I'm going to put it onto the chassis. Then I'll build the rear shocks off camera and come back when it's on all 4 shocks on the chassis. So give me a second. So the front's on, went together really well. There and there, nice. Yeah, so I think what I will do now is the rear shocks, put them on. I'll be back when they're done. The instructions are not that clear. if I'm honest. They could do with a bit more work. It's just unsure with the spacers and various bits and pieces. But yeah, it was easily. I mean, it pays off taking a bit of time doing the shocks. They feel absolutely really smooth, so can't wait to get the wheels on it, to be honest, on the front with my floppy steering. I'll need to look into that as well, because there's no way that should be doing that, but it's a separate conversation. Right, let's get the rear ones built, and voila! Can you see that? What's going on? I think I head back to the camera. Hang on. Well, yeah, voila! It's not done. It's the shocks are all on there. Really good. Really good. Lovely and smooth. I want to get the wheels on, but gearbox is next. Yeah, beautiful. And it's still very light. Yeah, so transmission build. So it's the diff, thrust race. Yeah, so that's the gearbox, and then that's it. And it's all pretty much together. Then we'll set the wheels on. The motor probably could go in, like ready. But yeah, fantastic! What a good build. What do you think? Not that you've seen one of these before. They're all over the internet, aren't they? All over the internet. Right, so let's get the gearbox diff, and I think about it really. Gearbox and diff, thrust race, bearings. We'll get that all on there now. Almost there. We'll get it up to at least a rolling chassis. And pretty much go from there really. Yeah, let's get that sorted. Here we are building the diff. So the first thing to do is the ball diff. We've got bearings in there as well, bushings. Well, they got bushings in the kit, we've got bearings. So we've got the ball diff, and then the thrust race. So it's a bit fiddly. I'm not going to necessarily do step by step, because you can see here, you know, ball diffs with the balls in there with the plates on one side with the bushings and the out drives, and you've got the thrust and the washers each side. The thrust washers are sort of what puts it together, and then you put the whole diff together and it locks up. So what I'm going to build that. What I've actually got is loads of sort of oils and lubricants. There's one here I have got, which we will use. So this is just Stealth. Well, this isn't it. So this is. It's got Stealth differential lube. This can go in that as well. So that's that. But I've also got things like for the thrust. I think this is it here, isn't it? So we've got like that's for the thrust race. I've got other diff lube as well. I don't know if I've got like ball diff grease. So I'll just use what I've got there, to be honest. So we'll just be using these as lube, and I'm going to build this up. I'll show you once I've built it, because it's a bit fiddly to keep breaking off. Got to move the car, so I need a little bit of space. Right, that sounds like a bit of a plan. Quite a long video, but I'm trying to do it from start to end. The temperature today is ridiculous. 12.5 degrees, 97% humidity. It is raining, but it's not cold. Although I've got a hat on, it isn't cold by any stretch. It's ridiculous. Heating's on for a little bit just to take it up a fraction in here to stop the dampness. But I'm going to crack on with this assembly and move this out of the way, and I'll be back just to show you bits and pieces of it. I think that's the diff done. It's really smooth. I haven't done it up like super tight. It could go tighter, but those little like 332 carbide diff balls, you only get enough, which is like, I think it's 12, isn't it, or something? Yeah, 12. You just get 12, so don't lose them. But that's really, really good. With a diff, it's very easy to build. They're not exactly rocket science, but we've now got half the gearbox, lay shaft, or idler gear, lay shaft, bearings, drive shaft, drive gear. So we'll get these, and it's these here now. Let's get that built up as well. So you don't need a lot of grease as such, but what they give you is hardly any. Look, it's like, I mean, it is in there like a little smidgen, like a hair. There's enough in there. Look, I mean, it's, to be fair, it's, you know, it does the job. Yeah, so that's now onto actual step 2: idler gear, shaft, drive gear, bearings, and part of the stuff, transmission. And I'll put a little bit of this on the gears. I don't think I actually need to, but I will put a little bit on there before I seal it up. I'll be back in a minute. Just show you this before I put it together, actually. So, stealth transmission. It is like really smooth. You don't necessarily need to put any grease in there. I think I've read somewhere that you don't need to do it, but I will. Just a few little dabs on the gears, like that. I'm not going to do much more than that. I think the purpose of a stealth transmission is not to have grease on it. So I'm going to put this together, and I'll come back once I've fitted it to the chassis. So we're on to step 4 of the transmission build. It's all built. It feels really good. It's got this sort of weird foam cotton spacer. I don't know, but unless I'm going absolutely blind as a bat, on step 4 it doesn't actually say. I've got this part to put on, and there's clearly a bearing there, but it doesn't say put a bearing in there or there, unless I've missed it. But that technically, that goes on like that, but it doesn't actually say put the bearing in there. But we're building up like this, typically what is a slipper clutch, and then it can go in. So there are quite a lot of mistakes in the manual, which I did read about, but not specifically what the mistakes were. So yeah, I wonder why that. I wonder if it was like that on the original. I wouldn't know. So yeah, so we've got to build this up now, this slipper. It doesn't actually say how tight to do it. I've got a rough idea, but when it's actually running. But anyway, interesting. But let's get this bit built, and then, and if I get any problems I'll let you know. But we're then going to put it into the chassis. And then what's after that? It's the electrics, gear covering, battery, wheels and tyres. So probably once I've got the transmission in, I can stick it on wheels and tyres, and we'll call this part of the video done. It's a long video, sort of start to finish, and then we'll just separate video for, you know, electrics, body shell, etc. Right, let's I've got all these here as well. What are they for? Why have I got a load of them? Oh, there's some bits here. Okay, don't jump the gun, Dean, don't jump the gun. I need to backtrack. I said put a bearing in there, and then that sort of slides in. Okay, but that's, I think that's wrong, because I've got like a pin, what were they called? It's got to go in the shaft, but the shaft pins further in, so I've got to take this off. So maybe that's the mistake. Either way, this bit is completely wrong. It's not the end of the world, just got to take this off, but take this off, put that dowel pin back in, so that, I'm assuming it's that, so this goes on. And then there must be a bearing in there, I don't know. It does say bearing there now, bushing, yes, so that is a little bit of my mistake. The bushing's actually on this bit here. So anyway, thought I'd let you know that. I'll let you know I've cocked up. Right, left and right. Let's get on with it. Well, rolling chassis, pretty much. Not without its problems, I have to say. But it looks alright. Feels great. Everything is super smooth, but there are flaws. The track control arms, camber links, which you kind of knew anyway, are too tight. So any adjustments just come off. These are the standard links. So I have got the upgraded links to put on with different ends. I'll have to source them. But yeah, I mean it's got its carpet tyres on, which you can see here. But it is great. There's a few more bits to go on. A floppy steering. Don't know what I can do about that. But it actually looks pretty smart, I have to say. I'll sort of show you some of it. Don't know if it'll go blurry or not, but yeah, it's a nice build. It's quite easy, even though I struggled. I think that will conclude the video anyway, for now. but I'll do, it's a bit of a long video, but I'll do a quick closing on my thoughts, and hopefully by the time you've seen this, maybe I'll have the answers. But the next stage of video for this is going to be installing the electrics, motor, speed controller, trying to sort out this linkage here, which is a bit floppy, battery holder, receiver, and hopefully, well, the plan is to get it as a running rolling chassis, so we can then start preparing the body shell. Yeah, so there'll be a bit of a closing, but yeah, let me know your thoughts if you've got one, or getting one, or don't want to get one. But yeah, pretty good. Right, I'll just do a quick sort of summary, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, there you go. I just thought I'd just step in, do a quick summary of what I thought of that kit. So straight off, it's the first time I've built a RC10 of any sorts. I've never even, until recently, even owned an RC10. So the truck is pretty much the same as an RC10 traditional buggy, so with some additional extras on it. You know, the stance, the wheels, bits and pieces like that. But it's basically the same layout, and the sort of the generics of building an RC10 is what it is. So my first thoughts were, it's really good. It's much simpler than I thought it would be. The actual process of building the buggy, it felt, when I say premium, yeah, it felt as if it had a purpose. The purpose of any RC10 is racing. When they were originally out in the 80s, you don't buy an RC10 to have it sat on the shelf. That just wouldn't happen. Shelf queens is only a recent thing, in my opinion. Those of us that wish we had cars back in the day but couldn't afford them and have them now are significantly older. These cars are quite rare. Now, when they re-release them, if you have the funds, you buy them. And as we're older, we've got many other things to do, so we perhaps have a collection, so we keep them on the shelf. So we're doing things with the cars nowadays which we never did years ago. And for example, Team Associated are coining that in. So they thought, if we re-release vintage buggies from back in the day, they will sell, which they have. I'm not sure if you can see in the background there, but I've got another RC10. I'll show you that quickly before we end. So back onto the truck. The only thing I can say, it's like Tamiya, but let me start. So Tamiya have the same build process. So with that, I think, you know, a self-tapping screw into plastic, we've all got to be careful that you don't over tighten. That might be quite an obvious statement. Doing things up in plastic, you can strip easily. Now I find that the self-tapping screw that Tamiya use, JIC, when you put it into their plastics, for the most part the plastic is a bit harder, so it does have more tightness as it goes in. With the RC10 that I built anyway, the 10T, the plastics are a different type of plastic. They're much softer, more durable, built for racing. But when you screw in a normal, and it's not self-tapper, it's just a threaded bolt, Imperial, I found that the yield was much lower. So it wouldn't take much to... I'm going to do that up. Oh, hang on, I've stripped it. It's very easy. You have to be very, very careful. Some of the bolts that I put in, I felt needed a washer to sort of spread the weight a little bit when you tighten it up. Especially things like shock towers, the bolt that goes through. It's a nut and bolt at the other side, sandwiching together for the is it FRP? It's not carbon fibre. Because they're quite small. I don't know what it is. I'm not big, right? But have kits got smaller? There's so many small, tiny bits. I couldn't even pick things up. But yeah, putting a washer onto that standoff for the shock, I felt that was necessary. The building of the kit's quite straightforward. The instructions, not so much. So it did catch me out a little bit. A little bit is my fault. I'm sort of zooming ahead. There is others where you're looking and you think, I'm not sure that's in the right order. It works, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but it could have been clearer. Now, the only kits I can compare it to are Kyosho and Tamiya, who are in a different league completely when it comes to instructions. Now, all you RC10 professionals out there, and I've built one now, so I know what to expect. They're not that difficult. But someone that's building it for the first time, it's not easy. There's nothing worse when you're building a kit to not have a plan view of what it is you're trying to build size-wise. It's just a three-dimensional printed image, which you've got to hold that part a certain way to marry up with what you're looking at. It does transfer over to other kits, I know, but it's not the best way. Because sometimes you can look at a part and you think, hang on a minute, which way round does that go? The left and right print on the parts isn't clear, but that could be my eyes, if I'm honest with you. E-clips, the bane of my life. I couldn't even pick them up. I've got small hands. I don't know what. Well, definitely haven't got large hands. I couldn't pick them up. I should wear glasses when I'm building kits. I've got to get my eyes tested again. But I could see what I was doing, but I just couldn't pick those E-clips up. Even when I had tweezers, trying to put them on my hand, I don't know. It's probably just something I'm not very good at. But E-clips are the I don't know. I would rather not have E-clips. But maybe a pivot bolt that screws in, or nut and bolt, a long threaded bolt with a nut. It's weight, I suppose. Hinge pins I'm trying to think of. But the car itself is really light. I mean, it hasn't got electrics in it as such. It's just got the servo. It's got to have the motor and the other bits and pieces in. But it is a lot lighter than I was expecting. The bit that I'm not happy with, which has got nothing to do with Team Associated, is the aftermarket J Concepts ball raced aluminum bell crank. At the point of this video, I have got to go back and have a look at that because I'm not happy with the way that's fitted. I'm hoping that it's something I'm doing wrong. Probably. So that's got to be sorted. The supplied turnbuckles and turnbuckle ends are good quality, but they're too freaking stiff. You can't adjust them on the car. It just pops them off. I read about it, but didn't take a lot of notice of it, if I'm honest with you, until now. So that's annoying. If they pop off by just twisting them, they're probably going to pop off during racing. So maybe those ends need to be changed for the ones that bolt on. But then you could damage other things as well because they don't come off. I suppose it could bend the bar, but the hop-up turnbuckle bars that I bought, which are very expensive to get over to the UK, well, they didn't fit the turnbuckle ends. There were they're just too fat. I think they need to be drilled out a little bit, but I think I tried that, but I drilled it too much. So I think it needs to be a much smaller drill. I need to find out what size, because they're 3mm thread size and they're too tight. You put them on and it just wanders. I don't know. I did try it and it just didn't work unless I did it wrong. But so that's something I'm not too happy with. The fact that you buy hop-ups and it don't work. But is it something I'm doing again? What else? Nope, that's it. So overall, very, very good. I do apologise that if you've got this far in the video, it's already super long, over an hour and a half. I don't think YouTube likes that. I certainly don't think viewers ain't going to watch an hour and a half of me rambling on. But if you get this far, thank you. Part 2 will be following up soon with the electrics. So we've got battery holder, battery, the motor, speed controller, receiver. I think that's it. And then we get it running. I've got to sort out the other bits I mentioned, the steering, set the car with turnbuckles, and get it as a roller. And then we'll do the body shell. I might do the body shell separately. Get it fitted, paint it somehow. I'll say that. I don't mean paint it. It's not that hard, but paint it somehow in a fashion that I want to do it, or even get it done. I don't know. Yeah, and then that'll be in part 2 / part 3. I hope you enjoy the videos that I do, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you very much for watching. I would appreciate a thumbs up or thumbs down. It doesn't matter. A like, and if you can subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, because it notifies you of when I release more content. It's free to subscribe and it helps channels like me. There's so many channels out there who are doing an absolutely amazing job, and we all know who they are with the RC. Just talking about RC, there's also a huge posse of smaller RC channels who are just trying to make it on YouTube. I don't mean trying to become millionaires. They're just portraying their passion, their hobby for the rest of us to watch. And these people are doing their best by making videos like this for you guys and girls to watch. So give them a sub as well. I mean, it's a very small niche. RC racing, RC cars, the RC hobby is a very small niche in the big wide world of YouTube. So have a look round. I subscribe to a lot of YouTube channels and support the smaller ones. I'm small myself, so you haven't got to be, don't chase them subs. You're just a person at the front of a camera playing around with RC cars, and same as the majority of other people on YouTube. Just some of them do it a lot better and are more successful. So support the whole lot, especially those down the bottom of the pecking order, if you like, but give them a like and subscribe and sub, because it gives them a boost to carry on doing what they're doing and to enjoy the hobby that we all love. So without further ado, shut up. That's me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for part 2. Bye for now. And cut! You forgot something. RC10 goodness. Can you see that? This is the Championship Edition. What do they call this? Team Car. That's gone. Team Car Gold Edition. Awesome. So that will be built at some point. This, at the time of recording, this kit is not available yet in the UK. So we went the expensive route and got it from the States, direct from Team Associated. I wouldn't recommend doing that as such, but we've got one. We've got all the RC10s apart from the green one, which I'm not too fussed with that. The graphite one, well, I've got the fan RC, so I don't know if I'll get a graphite one, to be honest. I'm waiting for the four-wheel drive potential MIP, whoever's going to do it. That won't be cheap. I saw one on eBay for over $6,000. That's ridiculous. But anyway, that's what I want to show you. Please subscribe to watch me build that at some point. And I'll see you later. Definitely now. Bye for now.